I do think it has been a really interesting period for quite a lot of, obviously, for quite a lot of reasons. Um, but one of the things that has been a nice surprise, although I did kind of predict it if I'm honest, but anyway, is like the world becoming quite radically anti-capitalist quite quickly. Like, yeah, I knew this for age. I've known this for like a decade that we need to be like radically anti-oppressive, and that is literally the answer to like everything, like colonialism, your personal problems, your interpersonal problems, issues with your partner, issues with your family. It's all about inequality and oppression. Yeah, and the capitalist patriarchal colonial system that's fucking everyone over. Yeah, but the point is, everyone's realizing that now, and well, a lot of people are realizing that now, and that's super super important. Like I can't stress how fucking important that is. Like my reason for being here, I think, is to talk about the importance of inequality and the importance of equality and oppression and decolonizing our systems and ourselves. Yeah, and even in the ICC report on climate adaptations and things like that, that lists how important it is to work with marginalized communities, work with indigenous communities, work with inequality, and to address equality issues. And they say explicitly quite a few times that like that's really important for doing the climate adaptations in the future as well as possible. If we're going to be all pricks about the whole thing, which we probably will be for at least a long time, it's just going to slow everything up and screw everything up even more. So anyway, so that's nice. That well, that not that bit, but the bit where like loads of people are becoming radicalized, loads of people are becoming anti-capitalist, loads of people are becoming intersectional feminists, like loads of people get it, they get it how important it is. It's important, okay? So please just listen to me, because no one listens to me, and like it's so annoying, and like loads of autistic people feel the same. In fact, loads of marginalized people feel the same. Loads of people have just been like, I've been fucking telling you this for like my whole life, and yeah, I'm glad that people are listening. And it's weird because it's obviously not like you can't, it's not a measurable thing like how many people are listening to you when you're talking about these things, but certainly in my own close like relationships, like family relationships and other relationships, people are just like, inequality is so unimportant, like why are you studying it, like you're not going to get a job with that, like no one cares, it's a side issue. The whole time I was like, it's the main issue, it's the main issue. And one time I was on a panel and this guy was like, isn't it a side issue? I was like, it's the main issue. We're at a trauma conference talking about how to deal with trauma with like different medicines and plant medicines, which have also been subjugated and oppressed and like, what's the word when you push down information, because of inequalities as well, and colonialism as well, which also relates to mental states and how different states are civilized and uncivilized according to colonial categorization system, which again is racist and quite anti-indigenous as well in terms of their origins. So for example, lots of indigenous and different communities would use different medicines and plant medicines in order to in order to, it's just part of their culture for many folks. And then we demonize certain mental landscapes, and those mental landscapes and those types of spaces that people get into when they take certain substances or plant-based medicines or whatever else. So yeah, it all relates to madness as well, because those mental states are like demonized. Anything like different to like the prescribed idea of like, this is what your mind should be, and these are the substances that you should take, tobacco and alcohol, and that's it. You can't do anything. Those are the acceptable types of minds. Whereas different like more divergent spaces that you can get access to through being neurodivergent or being mentally unwell or taking certain substances, or these are all demonized as well. So anyway, why am I going off on one? It's just so much. That's what I mean. It's just like, it's just so connected on every level. And yeah, forgive me. I've been working in like inequality for like a long time. I think at least a decade, and it's still quite hard to verbally talk about it. So just be easy on yourself if you do find it hard to talk about it, because it's hard. Even if you're a marginalized person yourself and you've been looking into this for so many years, I do find it quite hard to articulate. But anyway, but that's why part of why I think like love is such obviously it's like such a big thing like to humans, right? Yeah. But like, I think it is actually like an evolutionary thing to try and keep us on track to avoid killing ourselves by things like climate collapse and things like that, right? So I think it's like a good judgment of our, societies. And I think obviously because this one's so screwed up, that this is why everything's crumbling. And so I think it's what I'm trying to say. I think the quality love anti-oppression is programmed into us because, and we get that, when we have this revelation about love because you're like, I don't know, having a great time, or you wasted, or maybe you just had an epiphany sober or whatever. And everyone always comes back to love all the time. And I think this is part of why, because it is evolutionarily in our favor to not destroy ourselves on the planet. And you do that by like loving others and being anti-oppressive and listening to marginalized people and prioritizing them and putting vulnerable people first and foremost and protecting them and listening to them because we're fucking it's just so frustrating. It's just so frustrating because in lots of different cultures, obviously it's very vast and varied, but like a lot of marginalized people were considered to be like sacred and like people that had important information. For example, in lots of communities, trans people were considered sacred and having insights and important wisdom for their families and their communities and everything else, right? So part of that, I think, is because we're like different or not going according to the grain, you can get lots of multiple insights from doing so. So for example, like, yeah, because I'm non-binary, I look at lots of things differently to other people, whereas lots of people would just be like assuming lots of things. Whereas I'm like, what the fuck is this? Yeah, obviously we're all wise and sacred and important members of our community, but what I'm trying to express is that vulnerable, marginalized people have the answers that the rest of the world really needs. And so again, with autism, like in lots of communities, neurodiversity was considered a sign of sacredness and wisdom and something for the community to look here, and we were just important members of the society. So again, you can argue that the lack of vulnerable, marginalized people being centralized in a community, in a global community, is also a part of why we're having so many problems. Again, like lots of the Black community have been organizing against the system of white supremacy for forever. As long as, that was misinformed what I just said. Well, as long as white supremacy has a thing, sorry, it's not been forever. Racism is fairly new considering everything, because the elite was like, all the working class are like banding together, let's separate them and make them hate each other with racism and so on, and that's how we get all the culture wars we have now. So, I lost my train of thought. Let's do a dance. Bloop, bloop, bloop. Have I shown you my alien socks yet? Alien socks. Alien. Why do socks look so grimy on camera? They're not actually as grimy as they look on camera. They're just socks. As in, I think it's just being a sock. Yeah. So again, and Indigenous communities, like, don't we need their support right now? But do we deserve it? No. As in, like, Indigenous knowledge, Indigenous, like, insights. I'm not trying to romanticize it and pretend like they can, all Indigenous communities are blah 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 and great, and no, that's not what I mean. But what I do mean is that like lots of Indigenous communities know how to survive well in the world and with nature. So yeah, I've seen quite a few campaigns where people are realizing that and forwarding that, like foregrounding that, making that important, and Indigenous people important. And this again this is part of why I feel like this is only gonna increase, right? This is my personal opinion. Well, actually, you can't really count on that though, because life is not linear, neither is progress, and that's one thing we have to be careful about assuming, like we have done recently, and now we've gone backwards. It feels like for many people, for example, the abortion rights in America, for example. So that's another thing that we have to be considerate of. That's actually a feminist issue. I remember Claire Hemmings, who was one of my teachers when I was at LSE, she wrote a book actually about this, about how we have to be very skeptical of this linear progress idea, because we have to keep fighting. We can't just be complacent and stuff. Even though I would love to be complacent in terms of not doing anything and just lying down, but I can't. Yeah.